I don't, as a rule, I don't do New Year's resolutions. However, there is one change I'm attempting to make this year. Last month, before I came to church here to speak, I copied and pasted my sermon into ChatGPT and asked, how long will this sermon take to preach? And it said about 20 minutes. And I thought, well, that's what I usually go for. That's perfect. And then the sermon was over in 13 minutes. That tells me I need to slow down. And so that's my goal for this year, is to slow down a little. So I will attempt, though I probably won't perfect it on the first try this month. We'll see. Beyond the building, exploring the church's civic call. As an English teacher, I've always been somewhat fascinated with etymology, the study of the origin of words. This fascination has opened my mind and broadened my understanding of the rich tapestry of language, revealing how language is shaped by culture and society, as well as how language in turn shapes culture and society. Yet what I find even more enthralling than the roots of words is the extraordinary journey they embark upon. Words, like living entities, undergo a metamorphosis over time, shaping and reshaping their meanings, sometimes evolving into something entirely unforeseen. For example, the word fanatic derives from the Latin fanaticus. If thousands of years ago in the Roman Empire, someone had called you a fanatic, they would not have been insulting you. In contrast, they would have been saying that you are someone who is inspired by God. But obviously, this word has changed significantly over time, from a term that once conveyed a profound sense of devotion and fervor to one that today bears the weight of extremism and intolerance. How did a word born of divine inspiration come to carry such a burdensome mantle? Then there's the word bureaucracy, derived from the French word bureau, denoting a desk or office, and the Greek word kratos, indicating rule or power. Initially, a bureaucracy represented a system designed for efficient government. However, in our contemporary discourse, it conjures images of red tape, complexity, and inefficiency. The word awful once meant inspiring awe or admiration. Egregious was once used to describe someone or something that was distinguished or eminent. And minion was once a word for someone dear to you. How far removed from their original meanings these words have come. We no longer look up at a starry night sky and declare, that is awful. We do not introduce a person we respect by referring to them as egregious. We certainly would not begin a love letter with the salutation, my minion. How did these words transform over time to mean something entirely different from, or even the opposite of, their original meaning? I do not have an answer to this question other than to acknowledge the fact that sometimes good words go bad. These shifts in meaning are a reminder that language is ever evolving. Words, like seeds planted in the soil of language, absorb the essence of their times, the emotions of those who wield them, and the collective consciousness of society. Just as the words fanatic, bureaucracy, awful, egregious, and minion have undergone a transformative journey, so too has the word church. Once a term infused with sacred meaning, it has over the years strayed significantly from its original intent and come to mean something entirely different to contemporary society than it did when it was first used to describe a fledgling religious movement. The word church carries with it a myriad of connotations, evoking diverse images and memories for individuals across our society. For some, it resonates with a sense of reverence, community, and spiritual sanctuary. It's a word that brings forth memories of joyous hymns, shared fellowship, and the comforting embrace of compassionate congregation. The mere mention of church can transport these individuals to moments of solace, hope, and profound spiritual experiences. On the flip side of this coin, however, the word church may conjure different sentiments for others. It might trigger memories of judgment, hypocrisy, and painful experiences. The stained glass windows and echoing halls could become symbols of exclusion, guilt, or hypocrisy, rather than embodying the promised sanctuary of love and acceptance. The word might stir memories of divisions, scandals, or encounters with self-righteousness that have left wounds on the hearts of those who once sought solace within the walls of a church. For many, the word church resonates with positivity, a beacon of hope, a refuge in times of trouble, a source of inspiration and guidance. It It represents a community of like-minded individuals coming together to worship, support one another, and engage in acts of compassion and service. In the minds of these individuals, the church embodies the teachings of love, kindness, and a shared commitment to making the world a better place. However, there are those who, upon hearing the word church, cannot shake the shadows of negative experiences. It may remind them of dogma, exclusion, or moral judgments that have caused pain or alienation. The term might trigger memories of hierarchical structures, institutional flaws, or historical controversies that have tarnished the reputation of the church in their eyes. This stark dichotomy reflects the complex relationship society has developed with the term church. It is a word that, like those we explored earlier, has undergone a transformative journey. Once used to describe a gathering of believers, a sacred space where faith and community flourish, it now stands as a linguistic battleground where divergent perceptions clash. When I was an 11th grade student, as my class was studying the novel The Scarlet Letter, my English teacher told us a story about the author, Nathaniel Hawthorne. She relayed to us that Hawthorne's name was originally spelled Hathorne, but when he learned of his ancestors' involvement in the Salem witch trials, he wanted so badly to distance himself from his ancestors that he changed his name by adding the letter W to its spelling. As I was preparing this sermon, I did some research and learned that what my 11th grade teacher had taught us was entirely untrue. I never did like her. While Hawthorne did change the spelling of his name, his decision had everything to do with his annoyance at people mispronouncing his name and nothing to do with distancing himself from his ancestors. But Mrs. whatever her name was not alone in spreading this bit of misinformation. It was a commonly held misconception, and I can understand why people would believe it. I mean, it makes sense that one might want to change his name after reading about the horrific acts committed by his ancestors. It is natural to want to separate ourselves from names, labels, or words that are tainted by negative connotations. So it is no surprise to me that many congregations, progressive congregations like this one, and even many conservative evangelical congregations have opted to leave the word church out of their name. It's natural to want to distance ourselves from a word that has come to be associated with exclusivity, bigotry, and even violence. Is there redemption for the word church? Some words have been horribly misused and stained by negative connotations, yet successfully reclaimed. Take the word queer, for example. Initially meaning odd or different, in the latter part of the 20th century, it became a slur used to ridicule the LGBTQ community. Shortly after coming out, one of the most hurtful experiences in my life involved reading an email from a family member containing the words, "disgusting queer." Despite the hurt, it was shocking to hear LGBTQ individuals proudly reclaim the term. Even as the word became associated with positive connotations, for me, it still stirred feelings of hurt and rejection. Reclaiming a word, especially when tainted by hate, fear, and exclusion, is not easy. Some words may be so tarnished that reclaiming them is fully impossible. Attending protests against the Washington football team, previously known by an anti-Native racial slur, fans would often argue that the term was once used by Native people themselves. However, they admitted that many years the term was used to disparage and dehumanize Native people, promoting violence against us. Sometimes a word becomes so infected by violence and hatred that reclaiming it simply isn't possible. Can we reclaim the word church? Maybe we can, maybe not. But whether we can or not, it is crucial to understand that the tarnishes on the word accumulated over centuries of misdeeds within the church. When initially used to describe an early assembly of disciples following a Jewish teacher, it did not carry the negative connotations it does today. In the New Testament, the word translated as church is ekklesia, an ancient Greek term derived from the verb ekkaleo, meaning to call out or to assemble. An ekklesia referred to any assembly or gathering of people. An ekklesia wasn't necessarily a religious gathering. In fact, it was more commonly used to describe a gathering of citizens in a city-state, especially in ancient Athens. This denoted a political assembly where citizens came together to discuss and make decisions on civic matters such as laws, policies, and public affairs. Importantly, an ecclesia was not a building. It wasn't a gathering of Christians or adherents to any specific religion. It wasn't a place where people went to be told what to think, what to believe, or how to live. Nor was it a safe space to gather only among those who shared the same beliefs. The essence of ecclesia was rooted in the collective assembly of people transcending religious boundaries and serving as a forum for civic engagement and discourse. Ecclesia was where you went to meet with people who held different views, different values, people who could open your eyes to inequality and injustices that you were blind to, and people who offered solutions you had previously not considered. Ecclesia was not a place where like-minded individuals gathered to feel superior to those who held different beliefs. It was where people with conflicting beliefs gathered to challenge their beliefs. Ecclesia was where you went to meet with people who held different views, different values, people who could open your eyes to. I just read that, sorry. Ecclesia was years ago, after the horrific shooting at Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston. President Obama delivered a powerful eulogy in which he spoke out about the very real consequences of racism in our nation's lack of sensible gun control legislation. Before he even had a chance to exit the pulpit, political pundits immediately pounced, criticizing him for making this shooting political, and especially for raising such issues in a church. But what he did that day is exactly what the church, the ecclesia, was intended to do. Please don't misunderstand me. I am all for the separation of church and state. I do not believe the church should attempt to force its views upon others or to legislate morality. But when it comes to standing for those who are oppressed, calling for equality, demanding policies that ensure all people are safe from violence, economic inequality, and environmental turmoil, when the church fights for justice, it has not exceeded its mandate. That is our mandate. That is what it once meant to be the church. But as we stand at this juncture of reflection, let us not merely dwell on the historical shifts of meaning or the complexities surrounding a single term. And may we move beyond looking at the idea of church in an abstract way. Instead, may we gaze forward and consider the challenge and responsibility laid upon us, the contemporary ecclesia, the gathering of individuals in this sacred space. The essence of ecclesia beckons us to move beyond the confines of a building or singular religious perspective. It invites us into a space where diverse views and values converge, where the beauty lies not in uniformity, but in the rich tapestry of our differences. It is a space where, like the original intent of the word church, we both support and challenge one another. In this ecclesia, let us not forget that our commitment is not to a specific dogma or exclusive ideology, but to the higher calling of identifying societal issues and collectively seeking solutions that benefit the greater good. Our task is to embody the true spirit of ecclesia, a gathering that is open, inclusive, and unbound by the limitations of one religion or one way of thinking. It is easy to be a community that thrives on similarity, where like-minded individuals gather to affirm their beliefs and look down on those with differing perspectives. But the challenge is to be a true ecclesia, a community where people with conflicting beliefs come together not to reinforce their own convictions, but to courageously challenge and refine their understanding. As we move forward from this reflection, let our ecclesia be a dynamic force in our society. Let us actively engage in the world, recognizing that the true power of our gathering lies not in isolation, but in connection with each other and with the broader community. Let our ecclesia be known for its commitment to justice, its relentless pursuit of equity, and its unwavering dedication to the well-being of all. In the original meaning of the word church, there was a sense of purpose, a calling that went beyond the walls of a physical structure. It was about assembling to collectively uplift and to challenge, to seek the divine in both the familiar and the unfamiliar. Can we, in the true spirit of ecclesia, rise to this calling? I posed the question earlier, can we reclaim the word church? I will say the best I've seen anyone reclaim this word was right here in this room during afterthoughts, when a wise member of this congregation, Cherry, declared passionately, "This is my church." This rather simple statement resonated with me in a profound way. Maybe I am reading too much into her statement, but what it said to me was the church as a whole may have done some horrific things throughout history, and churches today may continue to act in a way that tarnishes the word church, but nevertheless, this is my church. This gathering of diverse people holding diverse religious beliefs and ideas, this inclusive, welcoming community, this is my church. As you all know, I've recently moved from Savannah, just yesterday, in fact, where I've lived for the past 15 years. This also meant leaving the church that has been a home to me for the past decade. But as much as I love the church that I am a member of, I don't feel like I'm leaving. Because whether I'm here in Statesboro, down in Brunswick, preaching for or visiting another congregation, or attending the closest UU church to my new home, the Unitarian Church in Charleston, whenever I am gathered among people who challenge me, people who allow me to question even if they don't have the answers, people who may not agree with me on every issue, but who seek to make the world a better place, I have found my ecclesia. I have found my church. Amen, and may it be so. May we continue to reflect on the message as we listen to Room at the Table.